Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going deep on Rich Dad's Guide to Financial Education by Robert Kiyosaki. You know, the rich dad, poor dad guy. But this one, it's like the next level. What wealthy parents actually teach their kids about money, stuff you won't find in a textbook. What's your take on that angle, expert speaker?
Yeah, Kiyosaki, he definitely gets people talking, that's for sure. But I think the real value here, it's the practicality. He's all about giving people the tools to build wealth, become financially free, not just theory.
Right, and he doesn't sugarcoat it. Like he says by 9 years old, most kids already have all their parents' money anxieties stuck in their heads. He even tells a story, a friend of his, the dad was a doctor, made bang, but the kid was still terrified of being poor. Because that's all he heard growing up. Really makes you think starting financial education early, huge.
Oh, absolutely. And I think what's interesting, Kiyosaki's not just talking about like saving your allowance. It's a whole mindset shift. He says that difference between assets and liabilities, that's the foundation.
And that's where I kind of had an aha moment. I'd skimmed over that concept before, but he lays it out so clearly, real world examples and all.
It's easy to miss, but so important. Think about it like a car loses value the second you drive it off the lot,
Right.
right? Money out of your pocket, liability. But a rental property, that's an asset. It's putting money in your pocket every month. Even while you're sleeping, Kiyosaki, he's all about building up those income-generating assets.
So true. And that leads to, well, financial freedom, not just being rich, but having control. And I like how he pushes that entrepreneurial mindset, even if you're not going to be, a full-time business owner.
Totally. Understanding how businesses work, spotting opportunities, making money work for you, that's the key. He even suggests like trying out stocks, real estate, even with a small amount, just to get a feel for it.
Makes sense. I've always been a little intimidated by the stock market, but maybe starting small would help. Now, this is where it gets a bit more complex. Kiyosaki talks about using corporations strategically, especially for taxes. This part, I'll be honest, went a little over my head at first.
It can be tricky, for sure. We're not giving specific legal or financial advice here, of course, but the basic ideas, Kiyosaki recommends looking into, well, it's called an S Corp. Potentially reduces your tax burden legally. He gives an example. A family using an S Corp to buy a car, and they're basically renting it from their own corporation. So those rental payments, they become a business expense, tax savings.
Whoa, that's pretty clever. Never thought of it like that. Highlights how knowing the tax laws can be, well, a powerful tool. Definitely need to learn more about this.
It's all about learning. Kiyosaki's big on that. Financial education, it's never ending. There's this story he tells, paid a top real estate investor a ton of money just for an afternoon of mentorship. That's how much he values learning from the best.
Wow, that's dedication. He's not just talking, he's living it.
Yeah.
And he wants readers to do the same, right? Seminars, books, networking, always be learning.
Always. Knowledge is power, especially with money. And it's not enough just to learn. You got to take action. Don't wait for the perfect opportunity, just get started.
That just do it attitude, love it.
But he also admits there will be setbacks. There's this great story, his first business, total flop, shows that even someone as successful as him, they've had those bumps in the road.
Yeah, he's really open about his failures, makes them relatable, uses those experiences to teach resilience. It's not about avoiding failure, it's about learning from it and coming back stronger.
So important. And speaking of mindset, Kiyosaki, he's big on cultivating that rich dad mindset, right? Not just positive thinking, but believing you can create wealth, surrounding yourself with the right people.
He really believes your mindset can make or break you when it comes to finances. Challenges you to get rid of those limiting beliefs, like I'm not good with money or I'll never be wealthy. We all have those thoughts sometimes.
Definitely. Kiyosaki says replace those with positive stuff. Be around people who inspire you.
He says your social circle can lift you up or hold you back. Good reminder to, be mindful of who you're spending time with. Find people who are already living the life you want. So powerful. And along with mindset, he talks about taking responsibility. Don't blindly follow advice, do your research, make informed decisions.
Empowerment. That's the key. He doesn't want you to rely on others for your money decisions. Educate yourself. Become financially independent.
And this leads to one of his, well, more controversial points. He's not always a fan of traditional financial advisors. Actually, he's pretty critical of the whole financial industry.
He stirs the pot there. His argument is a lot of advisors, they're incentivized to sell you stuff that benefits them, not you. He says be careful of anyone who promises you the moon. No guarantees.
Question everything, think for yourself. Of course, doesn't mean you should ignore professional advice altogether. It's about finding the right people, those who have your best interests at heart.
Definitely. And doing your research, understanding the risks and rewards before you jump into anything.
So, a balance, right? Informed and cautious. Now, I'm curious, what really resonated with you from Rich Dad's Guide? What are some of the key takeaways that stuck with you?
Hmm. For me, one of the biggest things is financial literacy. It's not just for the rich or the experts. It's for everyone. No matter your background, your income, you can and should learn about this stuff. Kiyosaki says it's never too late to start.
Totally. He makes finance understandable, approachable, and he gives you so many practical things you can actually do right now.
Exactly. And it's not about getting rich quickly. It's building a foundation, long-term wealth and security, having a plan, setting goals, taking action consistently.
And seeing challenges as opportunities, embracing failure, that's powerful.
Absolutely. Building resilience, that can-do attitude, helps you overcome anything, achieve your goals.
I'm definitely feeling inspired to take a closer look at my own finances, see where I can apply some of these rich dad principles. But before I jump into rental properties and S Corp, maybe we should explore the other side of the coin. What are the criticisms, the controversies around Kiyosaki's approach?
Right. Good point. There's a lot to appreciate in his work, but there's also been some pushback. Let's explore those different perspectives and see what we can learn. All right, so let's talk strategy. Kiyosaki, one of the first things he says is, you got to know where you stand. Track your income, track your expenses. Not to beat yourself up, but just to see where it's all going.
Yeah, he's big on budgeting, but not in that like restrictive, eat ramen every night kind of way.
Exactly. More like conscious spending. You see it all laid out, then you can decide, okay, what's important, what's not. Like he says, don't tell me your values, show me your budget. Pretty insightful.
Ooh, I like that. And once you have that awareness, that's when you start building those assets we were talking about.
Shifting gears, right. From stuff that drains your account to stuff that fills it. Real estate, stocks, maybe even starting a business.
Right.
All about generating that passive income. And he says, explore different options. What are you comfortable with? What are your goals?
Find what works for you, not just follow some like cookie cutter plan. And while you're building those assets, managing debt, that's huge too. He even talks about good debt versus bad debt, which I found interesting.
Yeah, he makes a distinction there. Good debt, it's the kind that can help you build wealth in the long run. Like, say, a mortgage on a rental property. It's bringing in money. Bad debt, that's the stuff that drags you down. High-interest credit cards, loans for stuff you don't really need.
Right. It's not about being debt-free necessarily. It's about using it strategically. And this ties into something else Kiyosaki's really passionate about. Learning. Always learning.
Oh, he's adamant about that. Financial education, it's a lifelong thing. He tells a story about paying this top real estate investor, like a crazy amount of money, just to pick his brain for an afternoon. That's how much he values learning from the best.
That's commitment. It shows he's not just, preaching, he's actually doing it, investing in his own knowledge. And he wants readers to do the same, right? Seminars, books, surrounding yourself with successful people.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power, especially when it comes to finances. And then it's not enough just to learn. You got to apply it. Take action. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Just get started.
That just do it mentality. I love that. But he's also real about, setbacks. He tells the story, his first business, total failure. It shows that even someone like him who's achieved so much, they've had those moments.
He's very honest about his failures, makes him more relatable, and he uses those stories to teach us about resilience. Bouncing back, it's not about avoiding failure, it's about learning from it.
So true. And speaking of mindset, that's a big theme for Kiyosaki, building that rich dad mindset. It's not just about positive thinking, it's believing you can create wealth, surrounding yourself with the right people.
Yeah, he's convinced that your mindset, it can really make or break you financially. He wants you to challenge those negative thoughts we all have. I'm not good with money, or I'll never be rich, that kind of stuff.
We all have those thoughts sometimes. Kiyosaki says replace them with positive affirmations. Be around people who inspire you.
He says your social circle, it can lift you up or it can drag you down. It's a good reminder to think about, who are you spending your time with? Are they helping you grow?
That's a powerful thought. And along with mindset, there's this idea of personal responsibility. Do your own research, make informed decisions. Don't just blindly follow advice.
He's all about empowering you. Doesn't want you to rely on other people to tell you what to do with your money. He wants you to learn, become financially independent.
And that leads to, well, one of his more controversial viewpoints. He's not a huge fan of traditional financial advisors. In fact, he's pretty critical of the whole financial industry.
You definitely ruffle some feathers there.
Yeah.
His argument is a lot of these advisors, they're motivated to sell you things that benefit them, not necessarily you. Be careful of anyone who's promising you guaranteed returns, that kind of thing.
Question everything. Think for yourself. But it doesn't mean you should just ignore all professional advice, right? It's about finding the right people, those who genuinely want to help.
Exactly. Do your research, understand the risks and the potential rewards before you jump into anything.
Finding that balance, informed and cautious. So I'm curious, what really stood out to you from Rich Dad's Guide? What were some of the key takeaways that resonated?
For me, the biggest thing is financial literacy, it's not just for the wealthy. It's for everyone. No matter who you are, how much you make, this is stuff you can learn. Kiyosaki says it's never too late to start.
It makes it feel accessible, right? Not so intimidating. And it gives you practical tools, things you can start doing today.
Absolutely. It's not about getting rich quick. It's building a foundation for the long term. Security, wealth. Having a plan, setting goals, taking consistent action.
And embracing the challenges, seeing them as opportunities to learn and grow.
That resilience, that can-do spirit, it's essential for achieving your goals.
I'm feeling inspired to take a closer look at my own finances, see how I can apply some of these principles. But before I go buy a bunch of rental properties and start my own S Corp, maybe we should talk about the other side of things, the criticisms, the controversies around Kiyosaki's approach.
Yeah, that's important too. While there's a lot to appreciate in his work, there's definitely been some pushback. It's worth exploring those different perspectives, see what we can learn from them.
Okay, so we've talked about what Kiyosaki suggests, strategies, mindset, all that. But like we said, not everyone's on board. What are some of the criticisms? What do people push back on?
Well, one thing is sometimes he makes things sound a little too simple, like those get-rich-quick schemes, not always realistic.
Yeah, I see that. Like with the S Corp thing, it's interesting, but probably not something everyone could just like jump into. It's more of an example than a step-by-step plan.
Exactly. And some folks say entrepreneurship, real estate, that's not for everyone. Not everyone's comfortable with that level of risk, or maybe they just don't have the resources to get started.
It's all about knowing yourself, your own situation. Kiyosaki also gets some flack for how he talks about traditional jobs. He doesn't always paint them in the best light.
He's definitely all about that entrepreneurial life. Even called the 401k a scam once, which didn't make him too many friends. But I think what he's getting at is relying only on a job. That can be risky these days. Better to have multiple streams of income, build assets that work for you, whether you're employed or not.
So it's less about saying jobs are bad, more about taking control. Another thing people debate is his view on debt. He talks about good debt, but some experts say any debt is bad, especially now with things so uncertain.
Yeah, it's a valid point. Debt can be helpful if you're smart about it, but it can also get out of hand fast. Kiyosaki knows that, but he says using it strategically, like to get those income-generating assets, that can speed things up.
It seems like his approach is, well, riskier, not for the faint of heart. Really got to know what you're doing and maybe get some advice before jumping in.
Absolutely. Talk to professionals, get guidance. Kiyosaki talks about mentors, learning from successful people, but you got to vet them too, right? Make sure their advice fits with your goals.
Do your homework. Be in charge of your own decisions. Looking back on this book, what really struck me is that focus on mindset. Maybe I don't agree with everything Kiyosaki says, but that positive attitude, that proactive way of thinking about money, that's something I'm taking with me.
That's the cool thing about Kiyosaki. Even if you don't follow his every word, he makes you think differently, makes you take charge of your financial life.
He's like that friend who pushes you, even if it's a little uncomfortable sometimes. But you always learn something.
Yeah, he's a provocateur, but he makes you think, am I really living the way I want to financially? Big questions.
And even if you don't do everything he says, just that shift in thinking, that's huge.
It really is. Realizing you have choices, you can build a better future for yourself financially. That's empowering.
Well, I think we've really dug into this book, Rich Dad's Guide to Financial Education. We've covered the main points, the good and the bad, and hopefully given our listeners some things to think about.
It's been a great conversation. I hope everyone listening feels like they can take some of these ideas and make them work for them.
It's all about finding what works for you. No one right answer when it comes to money. But if you're informed, if you're proactive, and you're open to new ideas, well, you can build a path that gets you where you want to be. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep building that financial freedom. We'll see you next time.